And we have got
Space, final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilization, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Greetings, salutations, and welcome to ReTrek. I'm Captain Jim, and with me, of course, is Admiral Elliot.
hi there.
And we're here to talk about 2 Q episodes of Voyager. There's 3 overall, and there's another one after these, but we're looking at...
Yes, we're looking at Death Wish and the Q and the Grey.
Q and the Grey. So, yeah, Death Wish Season 2. Have we got any Trek news?
Yeah.
We have.
Yeah.
The casting reveal for Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, we've got five cast.
Which
there's been lots online about it, and people are going on the names that are put in the casting call.
Oh yeah,
and I don't think you can rely on them names.
No, I think they'll have used fake character names for the casting calls.
One. We have the Doctor, the African American guy who's been cast as the Doctor.
Yeah.
And on every site I've watched this last week, everyone's going, well, there was never an African American Doctor in TOS, and the saying is from the original series. I suggest all them people go back and watch A Private Little War and see Dr. Mabinga operating on Mr. Spock.
Of course, yeah, it could well be.
So I think that, and they do say that he studied on Vulcan wars and things, so...
Yeah, maybe that's who it is. It's obviously not Dr. Boyce. Maybe they are still... You never know if Jeffrey Combs has actually been cast. You know, there was that big campaign and everything. Because I imagine if they had cast Jeffrey Combs, I think they would announce him separate. I think that'd be a big thing, especially when they know the fans were clamouring for it.
Yeah, and let's be fair here, they've been really good at managing to keep things quiet.
Yeah, definitely.
Because until they announced Janeway was coming back, no one had heard a thing about it.
No, and she'd said she'd been certainly in talks about it for over a year at that stage. So, yeah it was very well kept under wraps, was that one. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, there's a young lady, young blonde lady who's one of the actors, and I thought, could she maybe be Yeoman Colt from The Cage? That's the only one who looks about the right age, gender, ethnicity to fit with any of the characters.
They've also got the young black lady. And it says that she's got to be a communications officer. She's fresh out the academy.
Oh,
and all that. And they've given a name, and everyone's going, "Oh, it could be so and so." It sounds like, well, that description sounds like bloody Uhura.
It does, me. Yeah, and I mean, there's no reason why not. Like, we don't know anything about Uhura's backstory before TOS, really.
No, it's like we know she was on the ship straight away. That she didn't transfer in with Kirk.
Yeah, that's it. Like
he had a crew of 400 and I can't remember the exact number.
Something like that, yeah.
But all that crew didn't transfer on with him when he became captain. Members of that crew have been there beforehand under Captain Pike.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be interesting. See another take on Uhura, but yeah. So that was obviously, like you said, we don't know a lot about who they're playing or anything just yet.
Yeah, sure all that's been released is like the original little snippet that was with the casting call.
Yeah, exactly.
Which can mean absolutely nothing by the time it gets to writing.
No, exactly. I mean, you look at going back to Discovery, there was a part of it was to conceal the character's identity, obviously, but there was a thing about Shazam Latif. They said originally he's cast as a Klingon, then they said, oh no, he's cast as a Starfleet officer. I mean, obviously, it turned out he'd actually been cast as both, but
He was cast as both.
But yeah, so I think they kind of slipped up a little bit there, letting it out of the bag that it was a Klingon originally. Anyhow, so we'll obviously keep you updated if we find out any more about that. I would expect a trailer in the next couple of months, or at least a teaser trailer in the next couple of months for Strange New Worlds. I think it'll be one of them that as soon as they get some footage, they're going to want to put something out there for us to see. So
yeah, there'll be a tease, won't there?
Yeah, and
you'd hope so anyway.
Even if it's just the crew on the bridge, I'm happy with that.
And even if it's part of the credits, so that we see the ship going through space or whatever.
Do we think, and this is a really early prediction, but are we going to get the voiceover in the credits again for the first time since TNG?
Oh, wouldn't it be nice if we did?
I think we've got to do, because it's
I missed the voiceover.
I do.
I missed the voiceover.
So, yeah, I can see that coming back. Anyway, let's move on to what we're looking at this time. So, yeah, 2 episodes from Voyager, season 2 and 3. First up, Death Wish. Then, so this is a Q episode that doesn't have Q in the title. So you don't get many of them. You know, there's Tapestry, Encounter at Farpoint, all good things, but the rest of them have all got Q-related puns. Though it's not like they didn't advertise the fact that Q were going to be in this one. Like, everybody knew Q were coming. I remember at the time there was a lot of sort of publicity about it and everything, but I think
it's a popular character. Although I think he's more popular now than he was at the time.
Probably, yeah.
I think people sort of thought, oh, Q, what are they doing with Q again? When it got to the stage of Voyager, and I think that's why he was left out of DS9.
Yeah, though I think going on these episodes, I do think it fits better in Voyager, and I think particularly he's got better chemistry with Janeway than he did with Cisco. And I know that's because the whole thing in DS9 where they were playing it, you know, it's not Picard. You know, and Q finds out when he gets a smacked at face that it's not Picard. But there wasn't a lot of room to kind of play with it after that first episode in DS9. You know, Cisco's having none of it, and that's it. Whereas there is a good sort of banter, I think, between Q and Janeway. So, yeah, I do think he works well in Voyager. So this one starts off and they're investigating a comet, but it's not a comet, but it kind of is a comet. And obviously this leads to them meeting this new character who's called Q. But should we call him the other Q? To make life a little...
We can call him Quinn, because he calls himself Quinn at the end.
He does call himself Quinn at the end, you're right. So, yeah, we'll call him Quinn then. And he's trapped in this comet and he wants to die. And that's kind of the setup for the episode.
Yeah, I do like as soon as he's beamed on and introduced himself as Q, Janeway immediately goes to red alert.
Yes, yeah, and I was going to say that, like, they treat him as though and act like he is the Q that we know. Like, you know, they assume as soon as he says he's Q that he's the same Q that Picard's and everything else. I mean, do they not have, like, a mugshot of Q that they send round to other ships going... I know he can look like anything, but he always looks like John Belushi.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But I think you have this quite often where Star Trek don't know what people look like. They just go on names. Yeah.
And it allows you to do a bit of recasting as well if you want to get away with that. And yeah, so they treat him like he's the Q that we know and everything. And he makes like a big speech as if he's going to end his life sort of thing. And it's sort of They play it up for fun a little bit, like he's, I've been thinking about what my last words should be and all of this business. But then he doesn't do a finger snap, does he? He's got like a...
No, he sort of waves his hand.
Yeah, like a point
like
thing
that.
he does. And it doesn't work, but it makes all the men on the ship disappear, which is a bit of a weird one. Though, not to, Jane was probably happy Chakotay had disappeared, but anyway. So the real Q turns up, and he's got quite a good line where he says, like, I thought Riker were going to be the captain of the Voyager. Okay. I wonder if that, because there is not a running joke, but there has been an ongoing thing that Riker keeps getting offered ships and keeps turning them down. So I wonder if he did get offered Voyager and we're like, nah, you're all right.
It's possible because we saw on screen 3 ships that he turned down.
Yeah, well, he
turned down the captain's chair.
He turned down like 3 by the best of both worlds, hadn't he? And that was only the end of season 3. So I think they probably stopped offering them after that. It got a bit silly, but so Q brings back all the men, and this is the start of him mocking Chakotay's tattoo. Like, seems to have a bit of an issue.
You've got makeup on. Mine's better.
Well, that's the next episode, isn't it? Where this one he just makes an offhand comment about it, but then he takes it even further next time when like you say, he's totally covered in it, like the Ultimate Warrior or something. And I like this sequence that they get where Quit's trying to escape and Q's following him. So you sort of get this sort of existential chase sequence, really. Like, it takes them back to the birth of the universe. Like, this is
before the Big Bang.
Yeah, and they're getting attacked by proton. Oh no, that's later. Sorry. So the Big Bang, and you get a great line from B'Elanna where she's like, "This ship won't survive the birth of the universe." Like, okay, probably not. Why would it? And then he shrinks them right down, and they start getting attacked by these big things that it turns out are protons.
Yeah.
So there's some really
below subatomic.
Yeah, there's some really, really inventive stuff going on in there. I wonder if they were in there.
For some strange reason, he hides them in a Christmas tree as an ornament.
Yeah, if we were going to be really cynical, we could suggest that he does that so that people watching go, "Oh, I won't mind a Voyager Christmas ornament." And I might be wrong, but
who brought them out?
I think if you Google Hallmark Star Trek Christmas ornaments, there's a fair few that you can.
Yeah, there is.
Pick up there. So maybe not.
Product placement.
Yeah, not saying anything there. You get speaking it as just a tangent, but Star Trek and Christmas, like in Generations, when Picard has his Christmas dream in the Nexus, the toy that his fake son's playing with is an Alien versus Predator toy. Really weird. Because I've noticed they've started selling these again at we have Smith's Toys in the UK. I don't know what the American toy shop is. I know Toys R Us has gone. But yeah, they keep bringing out Alien versus Predator toys, and it's like, okay, yeah, I'd seen Alien and Predator when I was a kid, but I wasn't supposed to have done, and kids are not supposed to have done. It's a really weird film to base line of toys on. But anyway, that's beside the point. Right, so it all leads to an asylum. He asks for asylum from Janeway, which, again, I know it's the premise of the episode, but usually when you're asking for asylum, it's because you're fleeing one thing and you want protection from it. Realistically, there's nothing the Federation could do to stop the Q Continuum taking him back if they really wanted to. But,
No, I don't see how she could give him asylum.
no, I mean, she could say she's gonna, and they could say, yeah, we'll protect your rights and everything. But realistically, if the Q want him back, there's not what you're relying on there is that the Q Continuum will go, yeah, okay, we'll recognise the Federation's authority to give him asylum.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, maybe they will. Maybe they will. We'll see. And yeah, so the setup is we're getting a classic Star Trek hearing court case episode, which I do enjoy them. I think
I like how Q agrees to it. He goes, "Oh, this could be fun. It might fill in a millennium or so."
Yeah, well, that's another thing that they say when they're doing this chase sequence. Something like they say, "Can we just stop this and do a hearing?" He's like, "Yeah, it could go on for millennia if we carry on doing this cat and mouse thing." And so they agree to the hearing and everything. And Q, this is where Q sort of starts hitting on Janeway initially. I do like the dynamic between them.
Yeah, Madam Captain.
Yeah. And the extra sort of twist to it, which, this is kind of the crux of the episode, but I like that there's sort of no right answer, really, because if they rule in favour of the Q, he's going to prison for eternity. And if they rule in favour of him, he's going to kill himself. So it's either death or a lifetime in prison, depending on which way Janeway decides to do it. So it's not as clean cut as you might think. Like, in principle, if we rule in his favour, we're giving him his freedom. But the fact that he's going to use that freedom to kill himself puts an extra layer of sort of conscience and consideration on. Yeah,
it's the funny one. It's that sort of euthanasia, but you look at it from his point that, like, he's an immortal being and he's lived through eternity, and they talk about the existence in billions of years.
Yeah. And it's obviously later on he makes the point that, well, I've done everything. Like, I feel like I've led a fulfilling life, and if you make me go on forever after that, all that's going to do is dilute everything I've done. And it's a really interesting dilemma, and it's interesting because obviously immortality is not something that we as humans experience, so we can't understand that. We can't look at it objectively.
Like he chooses Tuvok to defend him because the Vulcans do allow suicide.
Yeah,
and all that,
and that makes sense in Vulcans, like, because they would look beyond the emotional side of it and see the logic of it potentially. But then also, Vulcans can afford to have a unique perspective, I suppose, on suicide, because we know, like, within the Star Trek universe, we factually know that there is life after death with Vulcans in the form of Catra, like we've seen with Spock.
If they choose to go that route.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas this is an interesting thing because Star Trek's done a lot of exploring what happens after death for loads of other species. Like, we've seen, like, the Ship of the Dead with the Klingons, and obviously Catra with the Vulcans and things like that. And we've seen even, like, Aliens of the Week. Like, there's that Voyager episode, Emanations, where their energy goes and joins the rings of the planet. And obviously Bajorans, with the prophets and stuff. But because Star Trek has always steered away from addressing modern religion, we don't know what happens to humans after death in Star Trek. If anything, they've been willing, I think what I'm getting at is, like, they've been willing to explore the spiritual side of the fictional races, but they've drawn a line and not explored the human side of it, which is fine. And when you get an episode like this, it's interesting because, you know, an afterlife is, to an extent, a fact for a lot of the species in Star Trek, but we don't really know where humans fit in with that within the context. You know, I'm not saying anything about anybody's beliefs in real life. I'm saying within the frame of the Star Trek universe. But anyway, so yeah, it's the whole thing. He wants to die, like we said, because he's sick of it, basically. And Q's saying that the impacts will be devastating. You know, the
impact of the Q continuum.
Yeah, they don't know what's going to happen. And Quinn's argument is, well, isn't that a good thing? Like, this is something new for if you do let me die, this is something new for the Q species. It's all been the same for untold thousands, millions of years, but it'll give you something new to explore, you know, so... And then it's amazing, really, the amount that it packs into the episode in terms of the different ways of looking at the argument, because you get a bit about, well, doesn't it show that wanting to kill himself means that he's mentally unstable, you know, because he wants to die? And Tuvok's counter to that is, well, you have executed other Qs in the past and it's not destroyed the universe. So, yeah, they don't spend a lot of time with it, but it's an interesting avenue to open up if you want to die, does that make you mentally unstable in all instances, or are there other occasions, you know, as Tuvok talks about with the loved ones, like when you're ill? And...
Well, it brings in all the argument for euthanasia, doesn't it? If you have something wrong with you that's going to kill you, and you're in huge amounts of pain and you have no quality of life from it, is suicide a wrong thing to put you out of that misery?
And this is why I think it's a good thing that we are steering away from the religious side, because obviously various different religions have their own thesis on suicide and everything, but we're exploring it from a humanist perspective here rather than through any kind of religious lens. And this is where then we get the big cameo of the episode. So Q's going to prove that Quinn has had a positive effect on people in the world. And he brings Isaac Newton, some hippie guy, and Riker.
Yeah.
And so Jonathan Frakes notches up his Voyager appearance in this episode. And I like that he's straight back into it, and he's just like, Q, what the hell is going on? You know, he's straight into it. And we'll start with the hippie and Newton then. So we find out that Quinn knocked the tree, which dropped the apple.
So Newton discovered
physics.
He discovered gravity the right way.
He discovered the theory. He formulated the theory of gravity.
Yeah.
And then the hippie guy, I Googled this name because I thought, maybe it's somebody that's actually famous. And it took me down a bit of a rabbit hole because there is actually a guy called this who is an actor now. And I was like, is it meant to be this guy? And it's totally not. It's just a complete coincidence. So I'm reading this guy.
Surely they could...
nothing to do with this fella.
I found this really strange because I've never been able to find any reference to this guy being real.
No, I don't think
I might be wrong. And it's sort of like, well, surely if they're pulling anyone from history, they could have just pulled another historical character. Yeah,
like they could have made it. If you're doing the hippie,
unless it's that where it's sort of like it's meant to show that he's not just with famous people and
it affects
prominent people, but he's affected normal people that have had big effects on events.
But it's like the way he looks, sort of thing. They could have had John Lennon or Jim Morrison or someone like that. it wouldn't have been a miss. And it turns out Quinn helped him make sure that Woodstock happened, and also he met his wife. And I quite like it where he's saying, "Oh, you know, you'll have 4 kids and be an orthodontist," and the guy's like, "Far out."
Yeah.
I can't imagine that when he was a young man and he was into flower power and whatever else he might have been into when he was into flower power, and he's putting on Woodstock, that if you'd have said to him, "You'll be an orthodontist," he'd have thought, "Yeah, that's my goal." I'd be pretty upset by this. Like, what, you mean I don't become a massive rock star? And
yeah.
But anyway, and then because we want to get Riker in it, this goes really tenuous. Do you think Q just wanted to see Riker for a bit? Because this is really a stretch, isn't it?
Yeah, I do think he wanted to see Riker, because he even makes a comment about how many times he's insulted him.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, oh, well, he's never met you, but he's met one of your ancestors. And he's that, he calls him like Thaddeus Riker. Isn't that what they call their son who's died in Picard?
Oh.
It was called something like that, wasn't it? I'd have to double check it.
Oh, it might be. I'd have to go back and check
the name that. Definitely, if it's not that, then it's something similar to that.
Yeah.
And he also, as Q also, even though this is about what Quinn's done, Q also goes, "Oh, and by the way, you know, I did save you from the Borg in a roundabout kind of way, really." You know, he has to get himself a bit of credit.
Yeah. Now, there's a big argument that the Borg wouldn't have attacked the Federation in the same way if it hadn't been for Q taking us over there. Yeah, and then suddenly us being able to get so far back, almost instantaneous.
Yeah, Q seems to be saying, "Well, I gave you time to prepare for it," but also, like you say, the Borg might not have ever noticed Q had it.
Yeah, there's a big argument on that, and it's sort of like it goes that the Borg were already aware of the Federation and the Romulan empires, but they weren't really moving against them because they weren't sort of technologically advanced enough.
Yeah.
And then Q flings the Enterprise, what was it, 20,000 light years?
Yeah.
And like, the Q didn't see it arrive, but suddenly a Federation ship where it shouldn't be. And then it got away from them at that speed, it sped away. And suddenly, we want, and that's why they came at Earth suddenly. Yeah, because they wanted that technology.
They thought they were more of a threat because Q.
We were more advanced than they realised.
Yeah, no, I can go with that. I think Q's been a bit I mean, that's very much Q, isn't it? Being self-aggrandizing, but I think he's giving himself a bit of credit there. So what it comes down to then is they need Quinn to prove that he's suffering in some way. So they show him what it's like inside the asteroid prison thing. And then this all leads to eventually going to the actual continuum.
Yeah, I'll go show you the continuum. And I always thought this was a strange bit, but when I was younger, but I can understand it more now of why it looks like it does. That it's just a representation, it isn't the actual...
yeah, I get that it's all a representation and everything. Yeah, I mean, they could have gone for a bit more ambitious visually, I think, but mine.
Yeah, I think a lot of the point of it was that it was barren and there was nothing happening.
Yeah, I think this helps Quinn make his point, really, by presenting it this way. Before we get to that, though, there's the bit where Q tries to bribe Janeway, basically by saying, you know, I'll take you back to Earth, and he puts the ship in orbit around her.
And she's flat out lies here. Is it this episode or is it the next one? But she flat out lies and goes, "No, we're not looking for shortcuts. We'll do it by hard work and perseverance." The entire premise of the show has been trying to find a bloody shorter way home than 70-year journey.
Yeah, you made a big 10-minute speech in the first episode saying we'll be looking for wormholes and we'll be looking for anomalies and we'll be looking for the caretaker's mate who's a near omnipotent king.
We've been looking for Q to get us home in a click of a finger.
I know this was always the problem with bringing Q into Voyager. Is like, well, why can't he just send them home? And he can. I don't really get Janeway's sort of stubborn. In this episode, yes, because there's this whole thing of, I'm not going to condemn Quinn to this life just to get us home. There's a moral stance to be taken there. But in the next episode, I think you're right. It's this thing of, oh, well, we don't want your help. If I were someone else on the crew, I'd be like, really? Janeway, really? Just
really?
A bit of pride, I'm glad that your pride's satisfied, but I'm stuck out here for another 60 years. Yeah, good one. Anyway, so the continuum, it's a road in a desert, and effectively what Quinn's doing is showing that it's really boring. It's just showing immortality itself can be a punishment when your life and your society is stagnant.
Yeah, no one's talking to each other because they've all said everything that can ever be said. They've had every conversation.
And not only that, but they all know everything. So, what conversation are you going to have if everyone knows everything? It's, I get it. I get why it's boring. I mean, and even like, spoilers for Picard, but at the end of Picard, when Picard's like, oh, you haven't made me immortal, have you? I don't want any of that. It's this thing.
Yeah.
We do get a little bit of groundwork laid for the upcoming episode here. Like, we find out other Qs have rebelled as well. It's not just Quinn. People are getting fed up of it, and they do want to try and do other things and try and change it and everything. And it all leads to, obviously, Janeway makes the decision. She's going to grant him asylum, but she puts the caveat on it of just try it. Try being mortal for a little. You've not been mortal before. It will be a new experience.
Yeah.
So see what it's like. Don't kill yourself straight away.
I wonder, I think all the Q have to experience everything for themselves, I'm assuming. But I get the feeling that they can also sort of experience what other members of the Q continuum experience, so they can learn that as a new thing and maybe go do it themselves.
Yeah.
So I'd have thought if they could sort of look at mortality through Quinn's perspective for 50 or 60 years, that'd be a new experience for them all.
Yeah, you would think so, definitely. But obviously we don't get 50 or 60 years because the next thing is that he's taken poison, hemlock. And it's quite a touching thing that he apologises to Janeway. He says, I'm sorry, this is what I wanted to do. And I know you wanted me to try and experience all this stuff, but, it's not for me kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's quite tragic. And he's a good character. I like Quinn. And I like that you get that little bit where Chakotay and Janeway are talking and going, what would we do with him if we keep him on the crew? Do we put him in cartography? Well,
should we put him in astrometry? Yeah, well, we could just scrap every station.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, again, that would have been interesting. We seem to say this a lot when we talk about Voyager, but would it have been interesting to have kept him around for a few more episodes before he kills himself, or even if he doesn't kill himself? What are we heading towards here? We're heading towards Basics as a season finale, so maybe he could get killed in Basics. He could have filled the role that Suda does in Basics, and it could have been this thing of, he he realised how much he liked life and he didn't want to die.
Yeah, he decided to live as a mortal and live a life out and have a natural death and gets killed.
Yeah, that'd have been interesting. But I mean, I'm also happy we're going this way because you don't necessarily expect this from Star Trek because it is generally such an optimistic premise.
Yeah.
That to have a character who goes, "No, I'd rather die," and then does, is pretty tragic. So, and then of course you get the Q admits that he provided the poison, and he leaves it with a bit of a sting.
Well, I don't think it is a bit. I think that's Q trying to do the right thing.
I think it is. Yeah, I don't think he's done it out of malice. I think he's done it because that's what Quinn wanted.
Yeah.
He's not...
Like we've seen in Next Generation, Q's been rebellious, and we've seen the Continuum take away his powers.
Yeah.
For it in Next Generation, and I wouldn't. And he's sort of like, "Oh, I'm towing the line now. I'm a party boy and whatever." But I think that even though he's got to defend the Continuum, I think Q would actually want Quinn to be able to do what he wants.
I think in Q's mind, even though he's been arguing against this all the way through, I think he's doing it out of kindness and he's doing it to help Quinn do what he wants to do. So, no, I think it's a good ending. And yeah, he promises that he'll see Janeway again, and that obviously sets up the next episode. So, the Q and the Grey then. Starts off with a supernova. So we started with a comet in the first episode. So basically, if there's any sort of stellar activity going on, you're going to bump into Q in Voyager, it seems. Unless it's a cloud with coffee in it, obviously. But so we've got supernovas this time.
This is quite interesting, isn't it? They've detected a supernova's going to happen. And they've got the shields modified so they can get closer than any other Federation Starfleet ship has got previously to witness this, which is great. Yeah, let's go watch a galactic event that doesn't happen very often, and we can actually see it with our eyes.
But didn't Dr. Crusher invent shields that could fly into the corona of a sun in Descent?
Oh.
But then, okay, that's the sun when it's active. It's not when it's blowing up. So
yeah,
different.
And didn't Enterprise come across an alien species that was already flying into coronas of suns?
Could have done.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the Enterprise D observed quite a few supernovas in Star Trek Generations when Soren was blowing them up left, right, and centre. But anyway, it's fine. If Janeway wants to think that they're only the second ship that's ever witnessed it or whatever,
well, they were the closest, weren't they? She said they were the closest.
Yeah. So she says. So she's had a long day. She's going to go to bed, but Q's been in and Q's jazzed it up. And
yeah, he's got it all romantic looking.
Yeah, with his big heart bed and everything. And I don't want to cast a pall on this episode because it is all being played for fun. But I did think for a second, this episode plays very differently in the post-Me Too world, like Hugh's pursuit of Janeway. Anyway, the thing is, Hugh's a dickhead, so his actions are dickhead actions. Nobody's saying this is how you should treat women who reject you, so, I don't think we need to get too worried about it. We don't expect good behaviour from Q. And he wants to have a baby with her. This is the thing.
Yeah, I've chosen you out of all the females in the universe to mate with.
Yeah, but Janeway's not as keen on the idea. And then Chakotay gets all, sort of school kid jealous about it, doesn't he?
Well, we do know that Janeway and Chakotay had a thing.
Yeah, we do. And this is sort of one of the only... I mean, it's not a direct reference to it, but it is one of the only...
No, but you sort of say... It sort of plays like, yeah, I'm a bit jealous I've been there.
He does. He gets all sort of territorial about it, doesn't he? Like, oh, I don't like you hitting on my Kathy, as Q calls her. And, and then Q turns up, and that's when he does the tattoo thing, because he's mocking Chakotay even more now. And it's this
Chuckles. Thing. Yeah, he don't call him Chakotay, he calls him Chuckles.
Chuckles. I like that. We should call him that from now on. Yeah, it's this massive big face tattoo and everything. And then you get a bit where, again, this is another one that maybe doesn't play quite as well in the post-Me Too world. Harry and Tom are doing the reports on the holodeck in this seaside resort with these women in bikinis, and you've got them knocking about, and Q turns up to ask them for advice. Yeah, maybe Tom might be able to give you some
maybe
advice.
Tom, but everything that we've seen in Voyager, you wouldn't be asking Harry for advice.
No, you definitely won't be asking Harry. And they sort of fob him off and go, and it's not till the end of this scene that you realise that Neelix is on this thing as well, and he's just in background. And Neelix is...
Bar Rodent, get me another one of these.
Yeah, so Harry and Tom go, Neelix, we've got some work to do. Will you come down and just be as barman on the holodeck? Can't you just make a holo barman? No, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Right, fine. But Neelix tells Q that he should try being nicer, and that's how he might be able to...
So he's asking him, well, should I bribe her? And he's like, well, it's what you do, isn't it?
Yeah.
offering things so she'll keep you around.
Which, that is what Neelix does. But, yeah, and to be fair, Q does play a bit of a blinder here, because he gives her a puppy, which, I mean, obviously, my wife is a big fan of puppies. I think this would work for me, personally. I turned up with a puppy, but Janeway again manages to resist the puppy, even though she admits the puppy's lovely, but still not enough to win her over to Q. He tries for a bit of sympathy. He's like, oh, well, the truth is I'm a bit lonely. And Janeway admits that she's lonely as well.
It's about time I settled down.
Yeah. And we'll never know whether this would have worked, though I suspect not, because female Q arrives and she has that great line like, what are you doing with that dog?
And I don't mean the puppy.
Yeah. Bit of a burn. I think female Q is great. And it's, what's her name, isn't it? Susie Plaxton, I think, who she played Dr. Salah and Kayla. Same actress, and I think she's brilliant in this one. And then, no great surprise, Q might be causing the shockwave. The supernova. So that's what they think, and they get hit by the shockwave.
They start spotting more of these supernovas.
Yeah, and it is always a good bet if Q's turned up and there's some weird stuff going on. It is always a good bet that he's probably got something to do with it. And give him his dues. Not directly in this case. The Q, the Q as a race are responsible for it, but not our Q specifically.
He's not actually. Well, I don't think he's responsible at all. He's trying to do something about the situation, and it just happens that his answer is that he needs to sleep with Janeway.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Well, does he want to sleep with her? Because we find out at the end what he actually does.
Well, I think when it's with Janeway, he's looking at how humans mate.
Yes.
So yes, he is.
I think so. Yeah. So before I went back and watched this episode for the show, I always remembered this being awful. Like, I hated this episode. And up until this point, I'm like, I was wrong about this episode. This has been great so far. But this is the reason why I remembered it being bad, is this Civil War stuff. And I'll say up front, I didn't mind it this time. But
see, I've always enjoyed this episode, and I think it's just one of them that I find it's a silly episode.
yeah.
But it's good fun, and I've always enjoyed it just as a really good fun, enjoyable, funny episode.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something about it that doesn't quite gel with me. Like, I know they're going for the whole thing of, well, we can't actually show a Q Civil War, so we've got to do it at the level of a metaphor, and have it as the Civil War. Maybe it's just the Civil War thing that didn't quite work for me. But anyway, it's not nearly as bad as I remember it being. So they're in this Civil War thing, which is the continuum. We find out that this is because the Q were in a civil war, which was caused by the death of Quinn. So you've effectively got two factions. You've got the old Qs who want to stay the way they are, nothing changes. Then you've got this new faction, which basically think along the lines of Quinn and Q, our Q, in that they want to try mixing it up a little bit, not being quite as boring, not being quite as dull.
Having experiencing, finding new things to experience.
Yeah, and you might have to explain some of this to me, because I think I might have missed something. So Hugh says that the solution to it that'll bring peace is if he mates with Janeway to create a new Messiah, a new breed of Q. So why will this bring peace? Like, I get that he's saying it'll create a new being.
I think it's that it's Philip that because they've had a Q kill themselves, which has never happened previously.
Right.
They haven't had a Q. I think it's that it'll bring balance back by replacing Quinn.
Okay.
That's how I've always interpreted it.
Maybe I missed
he
that.
thinks it's sort to bring balance back by
So
replacing Quinn.
Yeah, it's like a one-for-one sort of thing. Yeah, I suppose. But then in the previous episode, they say that they have executed other Qs before. So how did they replace them if you have to redress the balance? Maybe they just maybe they recruit people.
Maybe it's that the writers just haven't watched previous episodes and have decided that they're not actually interested in continuity.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I'm all right with it because we don't
like. Maybe it's because the ones they've executed. Maybe it's because the ones they've executed have still been part of the continuum, whereas Quinn has left the continuum completely.
Right, could be. Yeah, we'll go with that then. That's fine. I'll roll with it. The thing is, like, we know so little about how Q as a species work that if they say something in one episode, you've just got to roll with it. Just go, that's how it works.
Okay.
Female Q then is left behind on Voyager. She's lost her powers. So we get this sort of subplot with female Q on Voyager. And meanwhile, Q gets shot, so he's injured. And
and Janeway's shocked that he's bleeding, and he's going, "Well, it's not actually a real gunshot. This is a Q weapon. This is just how you're perceiving it."
That's another thing I find a bit silly. Q weapons, like special Q weapons.
Yeah, well, because he's sort of like, he does explain it. He goes, he sort of brushes over it. He goes, "You'd be amazed what immortal beings can come up with to kill other immortal beings, what they can imagine."
I imagine the like throwing suns at each other and stuff like that.
Well, that's what the supernovas are.
Yeah, exactly. In the Q Continuum trilogy of books, one of the things they talk about in that is that the Nexus from Generations is actually a sword that the Q were using. It's like a sword that can cut through space-time.
Right.
They're well worth reading, those books, because they tie together so many weird little bits of Star Trek continuity that you wouldn't expect to be tied together. Like, so the Nexus is a Q sword, and it was used to cut the head off another really powerful being, which is the head that's God in Star Trek V. So,
right.
And the Q imprisoned him in the center of the galaxy after they cut his head off with the Nexus. And it sounds cheesy as anything. It sounds like the worst kind of fan fiction, but they're actually a brilliant series of books.
But it works.
Yeah, they're really, really great. Chakotay then says female Q is going to take us into the Q Continuum. I don't know how it works, but she is. And
he goes to B'Elanna, and he goes, B'Elanna, do you understand it? And B'Elanna goes, yes, I do. I don't know how she's doing it, but I understand what she's doing.
Yeah.
And we'll be fine as long as the shields don't catch fire.
Yeah, it's another one of them ones that you've just got to roll with, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
Up until this point, we've always had the impression that the Q Continuum is another plane of existence that has no link to the real world, no doorway from the real world, but apparently now there's something that female Q can do that's going to take us there.
Well, I think it's just the fact that she's, even though she hasn't got a power, she's still omnipotent and knows everything. So
yes,
she knows. So she knows how to manipulate the technology to do more than it should be able to do.
Yeah, but I just have a bit of an issue. It's just that the Q Continuum's always been presented. It's not been sort of presented as like an alternate universe, like the mirror universe, where there's ways of getting there. It's always just been a totally separate thing, and this idea that somehow you can get there in a spaceship just seems.
Well, the flying into an explosion linked to the continuum as well, aren't they? So they're not just flying through space and jumping in.
No, okay.
They're going into one of these Q weapon explosions, so it's sort of like a link between the two places.
Right.
The supernovas are how the weapons are showing themselves in our reality, and they're just muskets in the Q reality.
Right.
And what they actually are, or our perception of the Q reality, what they actually are in the Q reality is something else again.
Something else, yeah. No, you're doing a really good job of sorting out my issues with this episode, actually. I should have talked to you about this episode like 20 years ago when I first watched it. I might not have thought it was this bad for so long, but anyway. I like that she calls Tom Helm Boy.
Yeah. I like his face when she does it as well. It's sort of,
yeah. So Janeway's got an alternative plan now, where she's like, instead of having a child with me, you can have a child with female Q.
With the ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, because they've been together for,
They were together for, 4 billion years. They've only been split up for 1 billion.
Yeah, exactly. And there's quite a nice bit where she's, there's sort of a message about parenthood. Like, it can't just be wham bam, thank you, ma'am. That
was it. Is I wanted it with you because, like, what am I going to do after we have the baby? Like, I need you to look after it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, no, you've got to stick around and raise it properly.
No, I'm just an ideas man.
Yeah. So there's some quite nice stuff there, and that's where he offers to take him home again. And like we talked about, where she's like, no, we don't want any shortcuts. Like, at this stage, there's nothing on the line that, you know, apart from the fate of the entire galaxy with the Q Civil War, but putting that to one side, there's no
reason.
No moral quandary stopping Janeway taking his offer at this stage.
Yeah, like...
Just do it. Just go...
When she told the Q... Like, what does she do when she gets back to the ship and tells the crew, oh, by the way, Q offered to send us all home.
Yeah, but
as a thank you. But I said no. I said we'd rather do it ourselves.
And did he say that he were going to do anything bad if you didn't send him up? No, just, you know, just as a thank you.
Just as a thank you for this. We offered to send us home, and I said, no, it's all right. We'd rather do it ourselves.
So we helped an omnipotent being, and as a thank you, with no strings attached, they were going to send us home. Yep. And you said no. Yep. Okay.
Right. Time for a mutiny.
Yeah. Yeah, weird. So Janeway goes to speak to this other general who wants to execute Q. And then it escalates, and it's we're going to execute both of them. And Janeway gets to do an almost sort of Picard-like speech here. You know, she's saying, you can be role models for the rest of existence. And Q shows his more human side by saying, let's spare Janeway. And, this bit I do have an issue with. When they're about to get shot, just the way they do, like, the zoom-ins on the characters, it is like one of those old films where it's like, dun, and a big sort of crash zoom into something.
Dun, dun. It's like a Jerry Anderson, isn't it?
Yes, it is. F5. And then this bit is daft, I'm sorry. The Voyager crew arrives like the cavalry with the muskets and all of this, and no, it loses me at this stage. I'm sorry. It's just...
Yeah. It is a bit... This is where it is a bit silly, where they've got Q weapons and they're shooting, and it's sort of like, yes, you're only human, but they have got the armed with Q weapons.
Yeah. What? How does that work then? Anyway, never mind.
What gets me is like just before this, you've got them about Janeway and Q about to be executed, and you hear the shots, and Q reacts to the shots and is oh.
Yeah, it's like they're not shooting at us, Q. Like, what? To be fair, Q's probably just committing to it. So we know he likes rubbish like this. Like back in Hyde and Q when he had all the musketeers and everything on that planet in TNG. So this is exactly his cup of tea. So they call a ceasefire. This is where you get the mating thing where it's like, well, how shall we do it? And he whispers, you might think it's something really dirty.
And I like that. Ooh.
Yeah. But it's just the eating.
We've got a picture because we do get full frontal sex in Star Trek.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah,
and there it is.
Anyone watching the live stream, we better take that down. Actually, we'll get shut down by by the various streamers for going into material. Yeah. And then
but I like Janeway. I like Janeway's reaction, and she's "What is that? It?" And he's "You had your chance."
Yeah. And this sorts everything out, and then we end up back. Q's there in Janeway's ready room with baby Q. Who this is quite good. And then Buxo we're talking about. He's called Q, but he's a non-capitalized Q when it's written. So he's like instead of Q.
Because he's baby Q.
Yes, he's baby Q. And he asked Janeway to be the godmother. Which got me thinking.
Yeah. Katie.
Do you reckon he asked Picard to be the Godfather?
No, I don't actually.
You know, I'd thought he would have done.
No, I think he's just stuck there in the Delta Quadrant with Janeway on this one.
Right.
Because Picard had nothing to do with helping him here.
Oh, no, he didn't have anything to do with it. But I just thought, I wonder if he'd have asked Picard to be the Godfather. But we'll never know. But I like to think maybe he did. And yeah,
well, we might find out.
You might do, yeah.
If rumours are true that he's going to be back in Picard, we might find out if he's.
And that's pretty much that one then. So there is one more Q episode to cover, but I don't.
I think we should do that next week, and then
because do the last one. Okay. Yeah,
we might as well. Then we've done the Q. Then we've done all the Q, haven't we?
We've done all. Yeah. Well, yes, we've done all the Q. Yeah, because we did a lot in our Road to Picard season. Yeah, so we'll do
we did
that.
It all. Yeah, it is actually a bit of a. They do tie in together. There is an ongoing story with the three because we've had the death, we've had the birth. Yeah,
true. So yeah, we'll finish off Q and we'll look at another Voyager, or maybe we should. We talked about looking at holodeck episodes. Maybe we should do the last Q one, and then we could do like a holodeck episode from somewhere else. Just
maybe throw in some DS9 because we don't seem to go to DS9 often.
Yeah, we haven't done.
And I love DS9.
We'll do a DS9 holodeck episode. Yeah. Which should we do? Should we do our man Bashir? That's
quality, and it's a nice standalone episode that you can throw into that. Doesn't
So we'll do that then. We'll finish off Q and we'll do our man Bashir next week. If you want to get in touch with us in the meantime, you can contact us on Twitter at ReTrekPod or email us retrekpod@gmail.com.
Yeah, which is scrolling down the bottom of your screen all the way through.
You can find us on Facebook if you search for ReTrek. We've got our YouTube channel, which will have these video episodes live. It also has Elliot's current modelling project, which is the TOS Enterprise that you're working on at the moment.
Yeah, that's what I'm building at the moment, the circuit board.
Right.
But if anyone hasn't yet, I put up a video yesterday where you can see all the nacelles working by this nest of wire coming out of it. So that was quite fun yesterday, what I managed to get done.
Excellent. So go and check that out. Give us a subscribe and a like, or leave us a review on your podcatcher of choice. And thanks for trekking with us this time, and we will see you next time on the ReTrek.
Thank you. Bye-bye.